In today's video, we're going to scan the codes from the $700 Volvo and fix the Misfire. Alright, so let's see what this car has to tell us about itself. All right, we are a Volvo XC90. Yep, that's right.
Yep.
Diagnosis, auto scan. Let's go. Let's see what we got. 6 faults, central electronics. 7 ECM faults, brake control fault, differential fault, driver door, passenger door, climate control, and power seat module. Let's see. Electronics module, xenon lamp, hazard light switch. This seems like an issue with the headlights. Yeah, so it does look like the headlights were replaced at some point. So that's probably why. Nothing really critical. Engine control module, we should see something interesting. Camshaft, inlet camshaft control slow. Misfire at least 1 cylinder. Misfire cylinder 4 on startup. Misfire cylinder 5. Catalyst damage, not sure what that is. Exhaust camshaft control issue. And missing oxygen sensor. So it turns out the type of misfire on cylinder 5 is the type that could cause catalytic converter damage. Brake control module, brake pressure sensors, accelerometer, brake pressure sensor 1, signal too low. Let's see what that is. And battery voltage is actually really low, so maybe that's what's causing a lot of these issues. Hydraulic pressure, power supply. Power supply would probably be the voltage. Driver door, since it's electronics, it's probably voltage issues. Probably the same for the passenger door. We'll skip passenger door. Climate control, probably also electronic issues. Air quality sensor, this might be electronics. With all these electronics codes and seeing the low voltage on the battery, testing the battery and maybe replacing it should hopefully fix a fair amount of these issues, but really the engine control issues are really what's going to be the big part of the project. Yeah, this is really where all the work's going to be. And camshaft control, inlet and exhaust is probably the VVT solenoids, and we saw their aftermarket, and that's a known issue. Like non-Volvo parts on VVT system cause a bunch of problems. So that's part of it. And yeah, this should be interesting to fix. So let's see what's going on with this Misfire. I have a spare coil or two. Just gonna test that out. And to get to the coils, you gotta remove 8 T30 screws. And so let's get to it. So this part is only 2 screws. And there's a clip right here on the other side. You can push to remove this cover, which, ooh, that's very oily. And these are what? Professional Parts Sweden VVT solenoids, which are not Swedish made and are on the forums known to cause timing issues. So this could be it. You can also see right here, that's gasket maker, not the actual gasket that you're supposed to have. And
Oil's coming out.
And there's oil everywhere, which is probably coming from there.
You can see it pushing out under here.
Oh, it's coming out around that gasket maker. Yeah, that's not great. Oh, fuck. gross. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so if you want to use power tools, you can remove this support bar, which will have to be done eventually because the bushings are terrible. Now for these two, you want to remove the intercooler pipe or loosen it. Now on the front here, it's a T25. Then you can loosen this hose clamp. So there's actually another screw holding in the charge pipe on the right side of the intake manifold that I missed at first, and you'll see me get that later. So with the hose clamps loosened, you can move the boost pipe out of the way enough. Just take these two last T30 screws out. You can remove the cover. There's another screw right here. And with those two out, you might be able to flex it out of the way without completely removing it. Ooh, that's oily. Okay, let's see. Still oily. Some more oil here, and a lot here. So all this oil up top is really indicative of a PCV issue where crankcase pressure is building up and oil's escaping somewhere and collecting up top. So it's something we'll have to address. Okay, so we're gonna remove, since we have misfires on cylinder 4 and 5, I'm gonna remove the coils for that. I have some used ones out of a junkyard car, and they are held in with, I think, just the one 8mm socket, or 8mm bolts. The numbers on these are all mixed up, so they might have been looking for the source of the misfire. But, you know, it seems like whoever worked on this car did not do a great job because, well, the gasket stuff, the connectors are damaged. Like you can see it's just broken here. And so that's not great. This one's just missing altogether. And for reference, this cylinder 1 to 5 start at the timing belt. Okay. To disconnect these, the clip can be pretty tight, so a good way to do it is to pry it up with a screwdriver and then pull it back. So again, right here, this little clip right here, you can pry up and then pull it back. Then, let's see, this.
We're going pull.
Just grab it, and pop it up. It's oily. Flashlight.
Ooh, that is oily.
Lots of oil. Ooh, not as oily here, it seems. Looks pretty good. Let's get the spark plugs out and see what those look like. See, cylinder 4. Not very good.
It's not even gapped properly.
Jeez. Also bad.
That is not good.
Yeah. Using brake clean, we can see, try to figure out how bad things are. So we do have new spark plug. So initially I thought, oh, I'll reuse the current spark plugs to test things out, but with the risk of them not sparking properly and continuing the misfire issue, I thought it'd be a better idea to just put the new ones in, and if they got fouled up for some reason, just replacing them again. Now while the spark plugs are out, it's a good time to take a look inside the engine with the Borescope. Let's take a look. We're going to take a look inside the cylinders and see how things are. What we're using is a Borescope, which is a little camera. This one has one on the top and another one on the side here. And it'll allow us to put it in and see with a little light, and we'll be able to see. Oh, the viewing angles are terrible, but we'll be able to look in and see how things look in there. So this is cylinder 4, and we can see the cylinder walls got the cross hatching, which is good. And we can also see that the valves look like they're in pretty good condition, but there's some carbon buildup. The piston itself looks to be in pretty good condition too, so it doesn't look like we'll have to replace anything in there. For cylinder 5, the piston looks like it has maybe a little bit more carbon buildup, but also in good shape. The cylinder walls also have the cross hatching, but maybe a little bit of pitting, and this could be caused by unburned fuel, potentially. And the valves look also pretty good, and again, some carbon buildup. For the carbon buildup, an engine cleaning solution, like an additive, should help with that, and over time it should burn off anyway, once the engine's running right. So what we see in here is, pretty good sign, especially for an engine with almost 170,000 miles. Really, the hope was to find no bent valves, and there aren't any, so that's a good sign. So when you're reinstalling your spark plugs, always get them started by hand so you don't cross thread them, because if you do cross thread them, you're gonna have a really bad time and you have to do some head work or something. It's bad. So you can back it off, so make sure the thread's seat, and then screw it in. So you can torque your spark plugs down to 22 foot-pounds. Something to keep in mind when you're torquing things down is that if you have oil on the threads, then your torque number is not actually going to be right. So keep that in mind. If things start to get tight, don't force it either. In this case, just went for nice and snug. So after replacing the spark plugs, we're putting back in some coils out of a junkyard car to replace the ones that came out. So the reason putting these different coils in is because when we picked up the car, it was nighttime, and there was a pretty significant flicker in the headlights in time with the misfire. So clearly there was some sort of issue relating to the misfire and probably the coil, like potentially a short. So that's why I went with different coils. And these replacement coils also happen to be Volvo parts. So before you test things, you're going to want to make sure you have no boost leaks in your car. So that means putting your whole boost tube back in. Up toward the back. It's right there. Let's see, hopefully good news. I don't know. Well, the battery is kind of dead. So clearly the battery is not in great shape, and that's probably, that really confirms suspicions that it's causing other electrical issues in the car. While the battery is in the trunk, there's a positive and ground connection you can make under the hood to jumpstart the car.
Power that. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that sounds a lot better. Wonderful. So, maintain your car. But I mean, clearly this wasn't the only issue because we still have to address the oil, but this is a big improvement, and this is reassuring in the sense that it does mean that we don't have a valve issue on this car. So, fun fact, there's dual exhaust tips, and it came with the hitch, but that sounds pretty good to me. Let's check the headlights here. Are they flickering?
No.
Cool. So there must have been an issue with the one of the coils. You hear a little turbo whistle. That's good. Okay, so here I'm gonna rescan the engine codes to see how things look. So I'm gonna erase the codes first. Hopefully we'll see, what do you mean no fault codes? Is that it? Jeez. And here I was really surprised not to see any engine codes anymore. So I decided to do a whole new scan. Let's try again. Okay, here we go. Now we're seeing some. Okay. Let's see. We have CM beam adjustment signal too low. That's the headlight issue. ECM, no faults. That's crazy. Climate control module. Air quality sensor internal fault. Okay. Control module internal fault for multimedia module. Sounds healthy. Well, it's still.
She burning oil.
Well, this is where I remembered that there is still a PCV issue, so revving the engine up is gonna dump oil in places where it shouldn't be. So, if you do have a similar issue with your car, don't rev it up too high. Now that's a great success. So with that done, we can confirm that the engine's good. We are gonna have to do the seals on the VVT solenoids. We're gonna have to do the timing belt, and also change all the other spark plugs, just in case they're in as bad condition as the others. But this is really good news. Looking under the oil cap, we can see it's kind of oily, which means that it really hints towards the PCV system having issues, so that's going to have to be replaced. But overall, this is really good news because the engine's in good shape overall, so no need to replace it. Next time, I'll be getting the car into the garage, changing the other 3 spark plugs, replacing the gaskets for the VVT solenoids, and getting started on the PCV system. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.